That sounds good.
All right.
Good morning, Mom. I'm Megan. This is my mom, Marcia. We're here at Sacred Soul Mornings, and we are two generations, one microphone, and zero filters. Let's get into it. We're doing chapter 4 of the Tao Te Ching. We are going chapter by chapter, and this is not the first time we've thought of this book. We're just doing it as a living meditation. We're making ourselves think about it week by week. It's really cool. So maybe we want to start by reading the Tao Te Ching. I've got my one copy from the public library still. Sorry, guys. I got it. They need to get another copy.
I guess
I'll
you're
go
going to
get
have to
them one.
check it out and check it out and check it out over and
I
over
know,
and
and
over.
it's not a little city. It's not a little city, but I got it.
Yeah. All right. And I have
What?
my little translation
Oh, yeah.
from,
And what was really cool about chapter 4 is that just before we even start, the title for yours and the title for mine were opposites. They
wait a
were
minute,
absolute antonyms. What was your title?
of my book.
No, of chapter 4.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Chapter 4. Where did it go? The Bounty of Life.
And mine is empty. And we're going to make that work. Isn't
And
that amazing?
we couldn't wait to get into this. We had to wait. We had so many other things going on to get into this and see, okay, how's this going to work out?
And like I said, this is not new to us, but this is it's just
Yeah.
new talking about it and thinking about it week by week. It is so
Uh-huh.
fun to be able to do that. It's changing our lives to do that.
It
So
really is.
how does this work? Well, you definitely can't take it at literal value, can you? It can't be
And
empty and
there we
bounty of
go.
life. So anyway, it's
Mm.
deeper than that. Yeah.
So I'll get started on this. And the person who came up with the book that I have been using is called A Path and a Practice. And his name is William Martin that did this. I just wanted to give credit to that.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah, I got
anyway,
this one.
okay.
John Minton. Okay.
And so the bounty of life. And walking this path, we experience inexhaustible energy from what happens. Well, oh, excuse me, for what appears an empty void, we find the bounty of life. And let me go ahead and read the little extra there because this is going to jump into some other things we were just talking about earlier this morning. But anyway, our edginess, tension, anger, and turmoil begin to settle down. In their place, we find a deep tranquility that has been here waiting since before the beginning and the beginningless time. So, anyway, so walking this path, we experience inexhaustible energy. From what appears an empty void, we find the bounty of life. So, that's one of them.
That's interesting. How I'm just because I'm reading along on mine, and mine's so short because it's probably a more literal translation word for word. I know their
Yeah.
concepts and how do you even define things, as you know, other people have suggested to me, and as we were talking, when Lao Tzu or this wise man or whoever decided to write with his hand to paper, he knew, what am I doing? This can't be captured in language, but I'm going to do it anyway, just in case some people feel like this resonates. And so thank goodness he did, because here
Hmm.
we are. But anyway, so mine, can I read mine? I wasn't planning on it, but it's just so
Well,
simple and different,
share
but the
because
same. It says
so we
that
get
the
going.
Tao is empty, but in practice need never be filled. Okay. The Tao is fathomless, like the ancestor of the myriad things. Smooth the edges, it loosens the tangle, softens the light, merges with the dust. The Tao is crystalline and still. I think there's probably something about that with the word crystalline. Patterns, I get into patterns. And
Mhm.
it also seems to have been here forever. I know not whose child it is. It seems to have been before the emperors of old. So again, this chapter is we're trying to define and put to words something that is wordless.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. And so some of the things we were talking about while I was driving around the city this morning, because that's how we do our brainstorming, is I do
Yeah.
my morning drive around our city. And today it was a little extra exciting because it was snowy. I probably should have just went home and not done that. But I drove around the city.
Mhm.
Because we grew up in fundamentalist Western Christianity, we have a fabulous knowledge of Bible verses that pop into our heads, related and unrelated sometimes. And so some verses that popped into my head, in your head, the first one for me was, I started thinking of, I am the Alpha and the Omega, I'm the beginning and the end. That's
Mhm.
all encompassing, that's
Mhm.
similar.
Yeah.
And then there was I've got all my notes here. A billion notes. Psalms 92. So we're looking at another Old Testament thing. It's Old
Mm-hmm.
Testament. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. So somebody acknowledged that a long time ago when they wrote that down. You are everlasting to everlasting. I don't know how much more limitless that could be.
Because I like to think about, when in our culture or whatever, when we talk about God and God being in control, God, and then I'm saying to friends and people, but God is so much bigger than that. When we try to squeeze God down into that word God, whatever it is
Oh,
much
yeah.
bigger, is much more majestic than just that word. That's that limitlessness that you're talking about.
Yeah,
And
anytime we have a word. Mm.
I know, and we were talking about you had mentioned some of my searching a little bit today was trying to find something about living waters. And when we talk about the flow, we usually connect it to waters. And so I did find in Jeremiah 2 and 13, I sound very,
I
anyway.
know. But hey, what you know what? People made livings off of being preachers, so
So, but not people like me. But anyway, God,
does.
God, it was described in that passage, God is like the fountain of living waters, which symbolizes life-giving, sustaining presence and the abundance that God offers. And it contrasts with the fleeting, unreliable human-made solutions to our problems and challenges.
Yeah, when
And
we think of, and forgive me, you went into the sciences. You're a teacher, but you went into the sciences, and I kind of went into sciences, but not as much. I'm more in the word world,
yeah.
word
Mhm.
world. Like my
Yeah.
whole job is a word world, and you also have some knowledge I don't have about sciences. But so if I'm really wrong, please correct me. But neither one of us are physicists
Mhm.
because we didn't have that opportunity in our culture at that time period. That is
Mhm.
absolutely true. The door was not open, so it was not pursued.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so here we are. So we read a lot, but if something is technically wrong, please forgive us. We're trying our best with
Yes.
the ability we've had.
Mhm.
Okay? We have brain cells. Just weren't given all the opportunities, and it's all right. Maybe we didn't need
Didn't
it.
even know about the opportunities
We didn't
out
even dream of
there.
the opportunities.
Yeah. Anyway, just
The
saying,
opportunity was to do what we're doing, and we're doing
maybe that's it right there. We're
whatever.
in the flow.
I know. So I
So,
think when we talk about like the physical things, about elements, what better thing than water for someone
mhm.
to try to capture this idea with. Like when I talk about the flow of ideas, like I have my picture, here's a flow, there's me and my flowiness. When we're pulling things out of this, we're pulling things out of the flow. Water is the only thing that like a physical view would make sense to explain it with, right? Like
Mhm.
it's the only element that kind of makes sense. I mean, maybe you could have used some gas or something, but that's really confusing. And we were just talking earlier about how, oh man, I don't know if I'm ready to dive into it, but the fish, those
Yeah.
little fishies in the water,
That.
they
Hmm.
don't have a clue. I mean, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Let's think about deep sea fishies. No,
Hmm.
you know what? I'm going to talk about any fishies. They're inside the ocean, right? Or whatever, even the lake. They're inside their limited little ecosystem. They don't think about the water around them. They don't think about it. It goes in and out of their systems. They feel its current, but they don't see the water. And they can't even see beyond the water. They might jump up out of the water a little bit, but their environment is the water. And we might jump up out of our little earth bubble a little bit. And that's scary and we die. And they do too.
Mm.
So water is a great analogy for what's around us that we don't even recognize energetically.
Hmm.
The Tao, the flow, God in
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah, all around us. And
Uh,
there wouldn't even have to be air molecules.
no, it's
That,
not air
that to
molecules.
be. And well, I'm like talking about the void.
Oh, it's so amazing to me that these people, and I guess we're really mistaken culturally. We think of people in the past being primitive and not having the same intelligence. Boy, we have messed up on that. Do not ever think that if you're someone who thinks that. Um, And now science proves some of these things. And so he used the word void. That's so smart. It's so
Mhm.
smart to use the word void instead of only what we can see. There was
Mhm.
purpose in that
Mhm.
because, this whole, there's so much in just these four chapters.
Yeah.
Um, we're not just talking about what you can see. We're talking about what you can't see,
Mhm.
and that being equally important in shaping everything. It's like such a big concept. I don't even know where to go next.
Well,
Go ahead. Mhm.
well, I'm stuck on the word void a little bit, but I know that one of the things that I read was talking about that is just the awareness. And I know when I do yoga and we at the end and we're saying namaste, I was taught that that just means the awareness in me recognizes the awareness in you. And that's this thing
That's true. It's the
cannot be
awareness,
named, that cannot be not really named. We try to name it. That is,
the energetic flow force of everything that is physical and not physical, the void and the opposite of the void, right? And awareness of it. And so, like you said, you do yoga, you do yoga. I mean, this about as much as we know about that culture is yoga here because we just don't know. I don't know
yeah, and
about
I don't do
Hinduism.
a real philosophical study in it there at my
Okay,
classes,
you might know more.
but um, but there's something to it,
There's
to the
something to it, but
spiritual.
I have learned, in Hinduism, there's the concept of I have to even look at my notes because that's how much I don't know. The Brahman, right? The Brahman, the infinite source, the cosmic spirit. It's the same. And timeline wise, that was first, right? Then the Tao, then the Buddha ish. I don't know. Somebody can correct me on that, but it was way pre-Christianity. However, um, Christians would have been exposed to these concepts too as part of life.
Mhm.
So, anyway, that's just something to think about. It doesn't conflict with the Bible.
Right. I'm
So,
afraid if I say anything, I'm afraid I'm going to interrupt your flow of thoughts. I think I've done that a little bit right now. But what this morning, earlier, you were talking about Albert Einstein.
oh gosh, are you ready? I
I
told
don't
you, Mom, that
know. If you
I'm
don't want
gonna
to do that,
get on some quantum list of getting
well, people that don't know him
teleported
don't.
somewhere special. No, I'm just joking. There's that scientist Greenberg. Where's he at? I don't know. I watched that.
Let's not go that
No,
far.
I am. No, but let's go back to John 4:14. So John was somebody who knew Jesus and thought about Jesus and tried to live that way and was influenced by his teachings. And he said, "Whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become a spring of water welling up to eternal life." Not something necessarily out there in the future that will come back from a dead body, but now. When you drink
Mhm.
of that water, when you're in the flow, when you're literally in the flow, meaning I am accepting what's happening in my life, and
Mhm.
it's okay for the common good because everything is in control of this big organism. Everything. Um, it's the wellspring of all heaven, you know? Yeah. It's the only peace you can attain. That's it. Oh, so hard to explain. Anyway,
Mhm.
Einstein. Go ahead. Tell me. I'm going to talk about my tree soon.
Okay, talk. But a thought just came into my mind about belief and faith. Because what one reason why I enjoy doing this is because I want to have uh, faith or trust that there's more and that I can hang on to. Did that tap in on something?
I did. I have a perfect quote. Okay.
Okay.
Richard Feynman said, I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have the wrong answers. And that
Yes.
is similar to something I say all the time. And I said it before I even knew what I was talking about, but about like magic and mystery. Because I'm like, I have always been this way, regardless of our spiritual upbringing, where this is not allowed. I have always been on the verge of being like, there's fairies in the woods. They're here, Mom. I see them.
Oh, she loved that.
We
Yeah.
exercise her? No, I'm just, like, what should we do to pray these fairies away? No, whatever.
No,
I wasn't psychotic. I just mean I enjoy that. I
mhm.
think it's so much more magical to live in that world where there's possibilities. Yes, I'm
Mhm.
in also a word of I can't talk world of words, but I'm also in a scientific method-based profession. We are
Mhm.
like, oh man, so into that. And so
Mhm.
I realize that if things cannot be scientifically proven with scientific evidence, then we just go, sorry, they're not there.
Mhm.
However, um, most scientists, I don't want to say it,
Depends.
who
Yeah.
are have some thoughts in their brain that are that are open to the idea historically that you do not know everything and that it's evolving and it's okay to not have an end point. It is
Mhm.
okay to question because you want to question,
Mhm.
right?
I think real science, real, sorry,
Thank you. I know I feel like really
out
naughty.
there do that because they do follow
Oh,
something like the scientific method and do observations and all this to come to the end. And the most time, whatever they were going for is no. And then it's more questions
and that's exciting.
and it's exciting. And so that's what yeah,
So
those
yes,
kind of,
we will talk about Einstein and we will talk there, but I want to talk first about the tree and the realization I had with myself with the tree before I realized other way more important people had the realization of the tree.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, me, back when I was in this specific fundamentalist church, even in my early 30s, I was doing metal art, which apparently had a lot to do with this. I didn't know it. I was doing metal art, and someone wanted me to do something about St. Francis. We were not Catholic at all because no, the Catholic Church was not in a good thing for my denomination. And so I had to go to the public library and get a book on St. Francis because I didn't want to be completely uninformed. I wanted to understand why he was how he was. And we did not believe in miracles. We did not believe in saints, whatever. We're just kind of ignorant about that. So I read this book and it changed me.
Yeah, it did. It changed her. And then she started telling me stuff. And then it was like, what?
And
And I had to wonder about it. It's like, oh no,
so
from
yeah, I don't know what happened while I was reading this book. And I also read some Thomas Merton type things, which is so interesting because he was where we were in Kentucky. Like I sat on the same hill in high school that he probably contemplated at the
Mhm.
Abbey.
Yeah.
I sat there and contemplated things for fun because I was that type of high schooler that needed to
Mhm.
go to a hill at a
Yeah.
abbey with monks and contemplate for fun. I sat there
That's
and I didn't
her.
even know who
That's
Thomas Merton
Megan.
was. I didn't
Yeah.
even know. And I learned probably from some of the people who interacted with him who left that monastery, who were my professors at the
Mhm.
community college. Like, how
Mhm.
lucky am I? And I didn't even
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was sitting there in my backyard, my tiny backyard, with a toddler, a 2-year old, my daughter at that time, my oldest. And I'm sitting there contemplating, scarily contemplating St. Francis because I'm
Mhm.
afraid I'm going to go to hell thinking about St.
Mhm.
Francis and
Mhm.
God's going to come right now and I'm going to have this book in my hand
Yeah. Mhm.
today.
I know. And now look at us. But
Anyway,
anyway,
I'm sitting there leaning against the tree. And I'm not I didn't grow up in the world of quantum stuff or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
laying against this tree and I just had this feeling of what is the difference between me and this tree? Where is the barrier? Where is the barrier between me and this tree? Apparently, the Buddha thought the same thing. I learned that later. There was no way on earth I had that from the Buddha because we couldn't have read that stuff. I couldn't have got it from the library at that time. It's just, when you have those moments where you go, wow, this resonates. That's when you know you're in the flow. You just go, this just makes sense. So anyway, this tree
Mhm.
thing, where do I end and where does it begin?
Mhm.
So, my wonderful mom, we talked about atoms in our house like they were, like real little friends.
And
They are,
so,
but
well,
like,
now I'm
so,
thinking of one of my professors talking about atoms
yeah,
and the little electrons that are
like this.
orbiting around the nucleus of atoms. And so that tree's atoms and your atoms, or the Buddha's atoms, whatever, leaning against the tree, those electrons are all
Interacting.
interacting and,
Mhm.
in and
Maybe
out.
even doing that a little, maybe eating.
Sorry.
So we know. I think we're having some, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I am,
I use my hands a lot.
so we know though that magnetic energy, we know about electromagnetic energy. We know about it as children, even taking two little magnets and doing the the poles in a way that makes it
Mhm.
so, woo, I can feel the field, you enjoy that. I still love doing that. But our
Mhm.
little atoms operate that way. And
Mhm.
because when they are aligned, oh gosh, what is the word? When they are aligned, I can't think of the word I'm trying to say.
Repulse.
Yes, when they're aligned in a certain way, that repulsion, that feeling, that's what we feel as the separation between us and the tree. It's not that there's
Mhm.
actually a physical tree. There's a moment of separation between the atoms, but the atom structures are exactly the same in the tree and out of the tree. So that was a
Mhm.
huge thought for me. And St. Francis had this thought about nature too, about him being one with the birds and one with the trees and one with whatever.
Mhm.
But then my next thought, not that year, we're talking about many years later,
Mhm.
continuing with artwork, is
Mhm.
that negative space, that
Mhm.
vacuum. A long time ago, it used to be called the ether, and I still love to use the word ether.
Yes, you do.
And people also mean ether in a different way, and I don't mean that kind. I wish we could breathe the ether. No, it might bring you to awareness. I have no idea. I've never breathed the ether, but I mean ether in the old way. They thought there was a substance that was required. There was the ether that you can see it, and that's what photons traveled through. Einstein said we don't need the ether. Photons are consistent without the ether. But so when I use that word, I mean the flow. So when we're grabbing ideas out of the ether, it's that
Mhm.
negative space, it's that void, it's that vacuum. But what we found out is in that vacuum, it's not empty. There's
Mhm.
still residual energy. And
Mhm.
Einstein figured that out. We're still thinking about it. We have dark matter, dark energy, and I don't know, I'm not a physicist. But the fact that there's 0 point residual energy in the vacuum means that
Mhm.
there's something there. We just don't have the ability to measure it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so when we say it's all encompassing, it's not God is the tree and God is the grass and God is me. And then in between is nothing. It's
Mhm.
God is the nothing and the tree and the grass and me.
Mhm.
And so if we know, we just don't have the right tools yet to measure this. But if we know that we can somewhat on a very, very, very small scale influence that repulsion, you know, hypothetically, some miracles could exist, right? So we know that cultures that are based on this type of thinking, that the Tao Te Ching or Buddhism, they've fostered some practices like Kung Fu or Tai Chi. And Tai
Mhm.
Chi harnesses chi, life energy, right? And you've kind of gone to those classes. And if you don't believe in it, you feel like, what am I doing? Feel the ball, move the ball. Okay.
Mhm.
And you've watched Kung Fu movies, and man, they are like, but using the chi. But if that chi, you can feel it. Like we are electric beings.
Mhm.
The space in between, what if it's there?
Mhm.
What if it's there? And so I was thinking about Jesus and the miracles in the Bible. Um, I do believe that the Bible was written by men with men hands, or
Mhm.
women, maybe. I don't
Mhm.
know. We have, with the Gnostic Gospels, we do say that. I don't know the history of that part. We're in our cultures. We do our best. But
Yeah.
it's inspired just as any other text is inspired. Any text, if you pull
Mhm.
it from the ethers, if you're in flow, if you're in source, if your pipeline from the source is not blocked and that hose is turned on,
Mhm.
you're inspired
Mhm.
through imperfect human hands and your writing. So those stories do have levels of parables. So let's
Mhm.
take Jesus walking on the water. There's levels of parables there. But hypothetically, if Jesus had attained, whether he was real or not, attained such a level of mastery over chi, over life force energy, through his thoughts and being, could he have influenced his little atoms to have um, coherence with the water atoms and impacted the surface tension of water?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. Something to think about. And I just,
Electromagnetic manipulation. If he had the powers, or someone had the powers of electromagnetic manipulation, I don't know. Something
mhm.
to think about. And so that's where my brain goes with all this stuff.
Mm.
You have anything to add on that?
No, not right. Well, I'm just thinking of frequencies again because we talk about that and frequencies of vibrations,
Yes.
and that, and I was just thinking of the word, the electromagnetic.
Yeah.
Oh, so connected. Um,
So connected.
anyway,
I know
and
people get turned off by that.
possible, I think.
Anything's
And
possible. But in the new age, I hate that, when you use
I have
language, we
those
trap
words.
things into a little cage. And so when I
Mhm.
use phrases like new age, it's not new age. We're talking about stuff that is so old. It's
Mhm.
just talking about it again. So when you have new agey words like vibes and frequencies,
Yeah.
people
Oh,
go,
I didn't even think
ooh.
of that when I said those words. But you're
But
right. No, I'm not
we're
talking.
not even thinking that, even though it's
No,
fun.
I was thinking
Thinking that. You're
scientifically.
thinking this.
I was
You're thinking
thinking
the
about
actual waves.
solids, liquids, and gases, and I was thinking about the light spectrum, and I was thinking about the electromagnetic field, and then that's in atoms, and it's about frequency of
And it
vibration.
is. And you're thinking about those cycles and they're predictable. I know you are. I know
Yeah.
that. But I don't
Yep.
know if you don't
I'm
have a
glad.
concept of that. And if you didn't grow up in a home where we literally were like, let's play with tuning forks. Okay, Mom. When you talk about those cycles and stuff like that, um, you might think it's just some feeling, but I mean, I think it is a feeling. We're electromagnetic. We can feel things. I talk about, like little hairs raising on my arms. Like some people might call them chicken bumps, or what does my husband call them?
It's-
It cracks me up. Yeah,
Oh.
he calls them chicken bumps. Language issues, but chicken bumps, but they could be spirit bumps even. What if they're little antennas going, I am in tune with this electromagnetic field. And I know there's people that believe that.
Mhm.
We know we're electrical.
Yeah.
That's not up for debate. We know we're electrical.
I know that I think it was here earlier this morning. Some of this stuff we were kind of talking about a little bit, trying to um, at least have a little bit of a flow about this portion of chapter 4. But anyway, and I got did get chill bumps.
Yeah.
Oh, chill bumps. That's another word instead of
Thank you.
goosebumps.
That's better than
I did.
chicken gooses
And
and
so, I mean, and it was not because I was cold or anything like that. It's because of something that Megan, that you had mentioned, and I wish I could think of it right now. And it's like, oh, and I think, I don't know, but some of this that you're talking about, and I don't know why I'm saying this, I'm probably going to get you off track again, but
have a crack.
anyway, that it is so amazing when you start um, thinking about something like this and you find something over here from this wise person who wrote things down, something over here. That's what you're talking about with the ether, grabbing things out of it, but you're not necessarily looking for it.
Mm-mm.
It just kind of happens and it
It
kind
just
of
happens.
appears in
And sometimes it happens on a physical plane. Sometimes it happens in your mind. Like
the
I explained
mind.
this to my children recently. When they have ideas, it's like they're floating above you, like, and I said this the other day because I study social language. And so
Mhm.
whenever we're making up lies, in general, we look up to, the ethers. We're looking up to one side of our brain because our lobes like to do that. And
Mhm.
be armed with that knowledge if you would like. So almost all humans, unless you have dark triad qualities and just are kind of different, that 10 percenters, everyone does this micro expression where they're like, where's this idea coming from? Maybe we're little antennas and we're just pulling it from the ethers and it pops in our head. And then, we continue on with that idea. And then that's usually a good idea if it kind of just floats by and you grab it in an inspirational way. That's when you're coming from source, when your pipeline is open. When you are like, oh my gosh, I have to make 300 more dollars before next month. What do I do? And you're smacking upstream. You're like, what do I do? I can't get this $300. This is this. That is not being in the flow. And
Mhm.
so you were talking about I call them chicken bumps all the time now. My husband is a native Spanish speaker. And this is one of our phrases in our house is chicken bumps. Anyway, those chicken bumps. When I get my little arm hairs get all antenna-y, whatever the plural for that is. Boy, I'm failing at language today. We are, I don't know what I was going to say. We are fine tuning ourselves to our intuition, which is a
Mhm.
whole nother topic
Mhm.
because when we are externally controlled by rules and regulations, which was last week's topic a little bit, we
Mm-hmm.
talked about a culture of achievement and
Mm-hmm.
how it's external. The expectations are built externally because we do not believe people have the moral or capability to be okay in life. And we say, you need to do this. We turn off those intuition markers
Yeah.
really from birth. Instead of saying, does this feel right? Does this feel
Mm-hmm.
good? We have
Mm-hmm.
no clue. We have no clue if it feels right or feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start leaning into how you feel, and not just antenna on your arm hair, but other signs. Because remember, this is not just woo-woo-y. This is we're electrical machines, kind of, when a biological body, but meat. We can literally feel things and it has meaning. We can feel frequencies. We can feel frequencies when you hook us up to um, devices. You know, you put a tuning fork, you use bone conduction hearing aids. These are all frequencies that operate in our body. It's not just woo-woo feeling stuff.
Yeah.
EEG machines can read our frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
You can map them cyclic,
Mm-hmm.
not woo-woo. And when you fine-tune yourself more and more by being in the flow, more and more, it becomes more and more intolerable when you're not.
Yeah.
Flow. And then what do you do? Maybe chapter 5 will have that. I don't know. So we've
You
got about four,
turn
we've got a
yourself
lot
on
of chapters left, but I
and
think
go,
you'll be transformed.
yes. So what do we do? Go take a walk in nature?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's addictive. Once you start feeling the flow and the
Mm-hmm.
contrast, you would never go back. You would never choose to go back. And so I think that's, we talk about in the Bible how it is impossible to, what is it? Impossible
Go
to,
back to.
oh, help me. I can't. Maybe it's okay. It's escaped my mind. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible to be separated from God, pretty much. We've talked about that before.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because it's not something you're doing or not doing. It's just once you feel that water, that everlasting water, and it quenches, you can't choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you? You'd rather be gone,
Yeah.
which you can't go anywhere either. That's a different talk. Okay, so we got 3 minutes. I want to see what 5 is.
See what?
5.
Oh, gonna look ahead. Okay, I gotta look at mine then.
The bellows. Bellows. You know,
I know bellows, but no preferences. So we're gonna have fun thinking about this. Oh, I
oh
think it's
no, mine starts out with heaven and earth are not kind. What's yours say?
oh, mine's not like that at all.
What?
Life,
Oh, I love this.
life has no preferences.
That's nice.
Every manifestation has its place and lives its life under the sun.
Well,
And
mine says heaven and earth are not kind. They treat the myriad things as straw dogs.
this will be interesting.
Taoists are not kind. They treat ordinary folk as straw dogs. The space between heaven and earth is like a bellows, empty but never exhausted. The more it is worked, the
Oh,
more issues forth from it. Many words are soon spent. Hold fast to the center.
hmm.
Ooh, like bellows. What a wonderful
I know.
picture.
There's that energy.
Uh-huh. Air. He's trying to
Boy.
explain it with air, forced air.
Hmm.
The air goes in, and I love bellows. I guess they used bellows back then. Something like that. It goes in it, it's contained for a while and comes out. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't,
Hmm.
it maintains space. It
I
doesn't
don't see
disappear.
anything about bellows in
Oh, no,
mine.
yours doesn't say bellows. Yours says, well,
This part says, therefore, we welcome everything and everyone without distinction. Welcoming everything, misery departs.
and
So it's good.
I love that we have two different translations because mine is a very literal word for word more, and
Hmm.
yours is more like a feeling thing. And I think it's important to have
Yeah,
both.
I do too.
And I think we have to question all books that have been translated from ancient languages that we do not speak because it is impossible to take them literally. The end. Take that for whatever you need to take it as. Okay, we've got to go. As much fun as this
Yeah.
is, I'm
Okay.
so glad that
Good.
actually
Thank you.
flowed.
Yeah, thank you. It
Miracle,
did. It
miracle.
really
And I
did.
am so excited we have subscribers. I don't care if there's just two. The fact
Yeah.
that there's other people out there and we're not alone in my looniness.
I'm just
Thank you.
not
I
loony.
love my looniness.
Mhm.
Okay. Remember that life is a journey, not a checklist. Oh, there you go. So breathe deep, laugh loud, and trust the ride.
That's right.
Have
All
a
right.
really good day. We'll continue.
Next time.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.